something is wrong. And I don't mean a bad lap time wrong. I mean something is genuinely breaking apart inside one of NASCAR's most recognizable teams, and almost nobody is connecting the dots right now. You felt it watching Bristol, didn't you? That uncomfortable feeling where you're watching a race, but something about it feels heavier than it should. That wasn't just another rough Sunday. That was a signal. And once you understand what that signal actually means, this whole season starts to look completely different. Before we get into it, real quick, if you're someone who watches every single race and actually pays attention to what's happening beneath the surface, hit that like button and subscribe. This channel is brand new. We're building something honest here. The goal is 15,000 subscribers, and we want real fans in this community from day one. Now let's talk about what actually happened at Bristol, because the race result was the least important part of this entire story. Kyle Busch came into Bristol sitting 24th in points. No top, 1-0 finishes. A winless streak that has now crossed 100 races, going all the way back to June of 2023. Let that sink in for a second. Over 100 races for a two-time champion. That number alone should be making national headlines every single week. But here's what makes Bristol different from every other race this season. It's not what happened on the track, it's what happened on the radio. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. The race itself followed the same script we've been watching all year. Busch, buried in traffic. No pace, no track position, no rhythm. Just another day of survival racing from a driver who used to dominate conversations about the best in the sport. Then lap 313 arrives. Riley Herbst makes contact with Busch's left rear coming out of turn 2, and the number 8 goes spinning through traffic. It's a rough moment. But crashes happen at Bristol. That's not the story. The story is everything that came after that spin, because that's when the mask came completely off. Busch goes silent on the radio. Complete silence. Not frustration, not anger, silence. From a driver who has never in his career been known for silence. And that's the first moment where something feels genuinely off. His spotter Derek Neely tries to step in. You can hear him choosing his words carefully, almost like he's talking someone down from a ledge. He acknowledges that running around 30th is not acceptable. He says yelling at each other won't fix anything. He's asking the team to stay together. And the fact that he even has to say those words out loud, over the radio, in the middle of a race, tells you everything about the environment inside that team right now. But that's not even the part that stopped me cold. That comes next. Jim Pullman, the crew chief, had been fighting this car all day, adjustment after adjustment, tightening, tweaking, trying to find something, anything, that would make the car turn into the corner. Nothing worked. And by this point in the race, you could hear it in his voice. This wasn't the frustration of a guy who's had a bad afternoon. This was something that had been building for a long time. He starts going after the problem on the radio, but the way he's doing it, the tone, the edge in his voice, it doesn't sound like problem solving anymore. It sounds like someone who is starting to lose faith in the process entirely. When Neely responds that he can't fully diagnose what's happening from the spotter stand, Pullman doesn't back down. He pushes harder. That is not how championship-caliber teams communicate under pressure. That is not normal. That is a team fracturing in real time, broadcast over the radio for everyone to hear. And then comes the moment that I haven't been able to stop thinking about since the checkered flag dropped. Neely tries one more time to bring things back together under caution. He tells the team they're still in the race. He asks them to stay united. There's silence. Real silence. He asks if they copy. And Pullman responds with 4 words. Just 4 words. He says, "It is the same thing every week." 4 words. And with those 4 words, the entire picture becomes crystal clear. Because that's not anger talking. That's not frustration from a bad day. That is a man who has stopped believing that anything is going to change. And when a crew chief reaches that point, when the person responsible for making the car fast starts losing faith in the situation itself, that is when a team becomes truly dangerous to be around. And through all of this, through the spin, through the radio argument, through the silence and the breakdown and the 4 words that said everything, Kyle Busch said nothing, not one word. And I need you to sit with that for a second, because if you have followed Kyle Busch for any length of time, you know that is not who he is. This is an emotional, vocal, deeply competitive driver who has never been shy about expressing exactly what he's feeling. The fact that he stayed completely quiet during one of the most tense radio exchanges of the season is not nothing. That silence is the loudest thing that happened all weekend, and honestly, it scares me a little. Because silence from Kyle Busch in a moment like that means one of two things. Either he is completely checked out, or he has said everything there is to say so many times that he's just done repeating himself. Neither of those options is good, and neither of those options points toward this getting better anytime soon. He finished 26th, multiple laps down, another result buried outside the top 20. Another race where the number 8 car had no answer. And this is no longer a slump. You cannot call this a slump anymore. No top 1-0 finishes, 24th in points, 2 consecutive seasons without making the playoffs, a winless streak that has stretched past the 100 race mark. That is a systemic problem. That is something broken at a level that one setup change or one good weekend cannot fix. And here's where this goes from a tough season story to something that should genuinely have NASCAR fans paying attention. Because this is bigger than Bristol. This is bigger than a bad setup or a rough afternoon at a short track. Kyle Busch's contract with Childress Racing runs through the end of 2026. That used to feel like a long time. Right now, it feels like a countdown clock. Because think about what that contract was supposed to represent. When Busch left Joe Gibbs Racing, that departure shocked the entire sport. He was walking away from one of the most successful driver-team partnerships in the modern era. And the expectation, the promise almost, was that this was a calculated move. A fresh start, a chance to prove that the wins and the championships were about Kyle Busch, not just about the equipment surrounding him. Right now, in the middle of 2025, that story is not playing out the way anyone imagined. And the garage knows it. The people inside that world, the ones who see this stuff every single week up close, they know exactly what a radio exchange like Bristol means. Moments like that don't stay contained to one race weekend. They travel. They get talked about. They start shaping conversations about what comes next. And once those conversations start happening at a certain volume, things move faster than most fans ever realize. Because here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody really wants to say out loud. Why would either side continue past 2026 if this keeps going the way it's going? Kyle Busch did not leave Joe Gibbs Racing to run 24th in points every week. He is a 2-time Cup Series champion. He has wins across every NASCAR series. He is one of the most talented drivers this sport has produced in the last 20 years. Running mid-pack at Bristol on a Sunday afternoon with a crew chief who sounds like he's out of answers is not where that career is supposed to be. And a team, any team, is not going to keep going through the same patterns indefinitely without eventually making a decision that changes everything. So what happens now? That's the question nobody can fully answer yet, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes the next few races feel so important. Because there is still time. We're not at the end of the season. There are still races left where something could click, where the chemistry could shift, where the car could find speed that hasn't been there all year. It has happened before in this sport. Teams that looked completely lost in April have found something in May and completely changed the trajectory of their season. It's possible, but based on what we saw and heard at Bristol, the gap between where this team is and where it needs to be is not small. It's not a tweak. It's not one adjustment. It requires something fundamental to change, and that kind of change doesn't happen just because you need it to. The communication has to get better. The belief inside that team has to return. And somehow, Kyle Busch has to find a reason to break his silence and get back to being the driver that made everyone in the sport take notice. Because right now, the most alarming thing about the number 8 isn't the points position or the winless streak. It's that the man behind the wheel has gone quiet. And in NASCAR, when a driver goes quiet, it usually means the loudest moments are still coming. So I want to know what you think, because this is the kind of situation where there are real opinions to be had. Is this fixable? Is there enough season left for this team to reset and actually make a run at the playoffs? Or are we already watching the slow unraveling of something that cannot be put back together? Is this about the car, the chemistry, the communication? Or is it something deeper than any of those things? Something that doesn't have a clean answer? Drop it in the comments, because I genuinely want to read what you think. If this kind of honest, real, no-fluff NASCAR content is what you're looking for, subscribe to NASCAR Nation Report. We're just getting started, and we want the right people here from day one. The goal is 15,000 subscribers. If you want to be part of building this community, right now is the moment. Because here's where I land on all of this. I've watched a lot of struggling seasons in this sport. I've seen teams that looked finished find a way back. But what happened at Bristol didn't feel like a team that was struggling. It felt like a team that was unraveling. And those are two very different things. A struggling team fights harder. An unraveling team gets quieter. And right now, the number 8 car is getting very, very quiet. That's not just a bad weekend. That's a warning. And if you've been watching this season the way I have, you already feel it too. Something bigger is coming. Whether it's a breakthrough or a breaking point, we are getting close to finding out. And I'll see you in the next one.